Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to start with chapter 4, measurement of matter, on page number 46. Okay, chapter 4, measurement of matter. There are some can you recall questions you may see. We will just discuss. What is Dalton's atomic theory? So in last year you had studied about Dalton's atomic theory, Thomson's atomic theory, Rutherford and Niels Bohr's atomic structure. Okay, you had studied about the atomic structure. So from that, what was Dalton's atomic theory? Dalton's atomic theory was that atom is the smallest particle and it is indivisible. It is a hard solid sphere. Do you remember? Okay, so according to Dalton, matter is made up of indivisible particles, okay, which is a hard solid sphere. How are compounds formed? How are compounds formed? When two or more elements combine together and form bonds, chemical bonds, then chemical compounds are formed. Okay, what are the molecular formula of common salt, slaked lime, water, lime, limestone? Okay, so the chemical formula or molecular formula of salt is NaCl. Slaked lime, it is CaOH twice, that means CaOH in brackets and 2 outside, CaOH twice. Third is water, water is H2O. Lime is CaO and limestone is CaCO3. Okay, so salt is NaCl, slaked lime is CaOH twice, water H2O, lime CaO and limestone CaCO3. Okay, so this is about can you recall questions. Now the first part of the chapter is about the laws of chemical combination. Now what do you mean by laws of chemical combination? So whenever there is a reaction where two or more elements combine together to form one product, or two or more compounds combine together to form two or more products. Okay, so if there is a chemical reaction, there is a particular law which is followed by that chemical reaction. Those reactions are called as law of chemical combination. You may see in the second paragraph of the chapter, that is the first paragraph under laws of chemical combination. Okay, so with the help of the laws of chemical combination, scientists could then write the molecular formula of various compounds on the basis of Dalton's atomic theory and the laws of chemical combination. Okay, now there are two activities given below. I will discuss that activity. You may see activity 1. Take 56 gram of calcium oxide in a large conical flask and put 18 gram of water in it. Observe what happens. Measure the mass of the substance formed. Okay, so if you are adding water to calcium oxide, they will react and form calcium hydroxide and water. Okay, so in that reaction you have to measure the mass of the reactants. What is the measurement of mass of reactants? It is 56 gram of calcium oxide and 18 grams of water. So say 56 plus 18. After the reaction, you have to again measure the mass of that conical flask. You may see the measurement will be the same. So the question is, what similarity do you find? And write your inference. What happens? Calcium oxide reacts with water and the conical flask becomes hot. Total mass before reaction is equal to total mass after reaction, and the matter is neither gained nor lost during the chemical reaction. So basically what you have to understand from that activity, the mass of matter, okay, total mass of matter before reaction is equal to total mass of matter after reaction. Now activity 2. Take a solution of calcium chloride in a conical flask and a solution of sodium sulfate in a test tube. Tie a thread to the test tube and insert it in a conical flask. Seal the conical flask with an airtight rubber cork. Okay, so I will explain it what the activity is. You may see figure 4.1. There is a conical flask. In that conical flask you have to take the solution of calcium chloride, and inside that you have to tie a test tube and put it into it, so, which contains solution of sodium sulfate. You have to take the weight, take the mass of the complete apparatus. Okay, you may see in the diagram it is about 300.23 before tilting it. After that what you have to do it, you have to tilt it. What will happen when you tilt the conical flask? The solution inside the test tube will come out and it will come in contact with the solution in the conical flask. They both will react, and what is formed? You may see the next diagram. White precipitate of CaSO4 in NaCl solution is formed. So you will get a white precipitate and NaCl solution. You have to again measure the mass of that conical flask. You may see that the mass of the conical flask is again 300.23. Okay, so what can you infer from this? You can infer that matter is neither gained nor lost, it remains the same. So this is leading to, this activity is to explain or demonstrate the first law of chemical combination. Okay, the first law of chemical combination is law of conservation of matter. What is law of conservation of matter? In a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactants is the same as the total mass of the products formed. This law is very important. It is very frequently asked. So what is law of conservation of matter? In a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactants is the same as the total mass of the products formed. Now the next law, that is law of constant proportion. When two or more elements combine together to form a compound, there is a particular ratio, standardized ratio which they follow. Okay, what is the ratio? The proportion by mass of the constituent elements in the different samples of a compound is fixed. Okay, so in H2O, you may take water from this country, another country, wherever it is, H2O. Okay, in that the proportion by mass of hydrogen is to oxygen. That is how many grams of hydrogen and how many grams of oxygen. So that will be in the ratio 2:16. Now where did these numbers come from? 1 is the atomic mass of hydrogen. As there are 2 atoms of hydrogen, they have written 2 here. And what is the atomic mass of oxygen? The atomic mass of oxygen is 16. So the ratio is 2:16. The reduced to 1:8. It is reduced to 1:8. That means in 9 grams of water, I repeat, in 9 grams of water, there is 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 grams of oxygen. Okay. Similarly, in CO2, that is carbon dioxide, the atomic mass of carbon is 12 and the atomic mass of oxygen is 16. Okay, so here there is a number 2, so you have to multiply with that number, that is 2. Okay, so what will be the ratio? The ratio will be 12:32. Okay, what is the atomic mass of carbon? The atomic mass of carbon is 12 and the atomic mass of oxygen is 16. So the ratio becomes 12:32. If you reduce it with 4, it will come to 3:8. Okay, that means whatever carbon dioxide is present on the surface of the earth, however, in whatever method it could be formed, this carbon dioxide will contain 3:8 proportion by mass of carbon is to oxygen, and in water it is 1:8. Not only for carbon dioxide and water, this is applicable to all the type of compounds which are formed. This is law of constant proportion. Okay, so for a compound the proportion remain the same always. So we will see the proportion by mass of constituent elements in the different samples of a compound is fixed. Okay, so if you take water sample from here, if you take water sample from somewhere else, both are water samples. In both the water samples it is H2O, so it is in the ratio 1:8. That is what they want to tell. Okay, what do they want to tell? The proportion of constituent elements. Here, what are the constituent elements? Hydrogen and oxygen. Here, what are the constituent elements? Carbon and oxygen. Okay, so the proportion of constituent elements remain the same always. That is law of constant proportion. Now, who put forward law of conservation of matter? Law of conservation of matter was put forward by, you may mark in the textbook, it is Antoine Lavoisier. And law of constant proportion was put forward by the scientist J.L. Proust. Okay, this is very important. There is an introduction to scientists part given towards the right hand side. In that they have given information about Antoine Lavoisier. Okay, you may read it. Now on the next page there is an experiment for verification of law of constant proportion. This part is a confusing part. Generally no questions are asked from this part, but I will explain it to you. In that case there are two experiments. Okay, in the first one, decomposition of copper carbonate. You have to take two compounds, copper carbonate and copper nitrate. You have to take two compounds, copper carbonate and copper nitrate. You have to decompose copper carbonate, it will form copper oxide and some other compound. You have to decompose copper nitrate, it will form copper oxide and some other compound. So here you have got two samples of copper oxide. This is also copper oxide, this is also copper oxide, but this copper oxide you got it from copper carbonate and this copper oxide you got it from copper nitrate. So the source of two different copper oxides are different, but you have to show that the proportion of copper and oxygen, okay, in both will be the same. Okay, now how to do that? This copper oxide you have to take 8 grams, this copper oxide also you have to take 8 grams, and after taking it you have to make it to react with hydrogen gas. 8 gram of copper oxide, this copper oxide you have to make it react with hydrogen gas. You will get 6.4 grams of copper and 1.8 gram of water. Now this, how it is calculated, it is depending upon the molecular weight, but this is a proof, as this is an example. They haven't explained how you got those values, but they are the values. It depends upon the molecular weight and atomic weight. Okay, so 8 gram of copper oxide, whether it is this or it is this, it will form 6.4 grams of copper and 1.8 gram of water. Okay, so during copper oxide, when it reacts with hydrogen gas, you are getting 6.4 gram of copper and 1.8 gram of water. Now we know that in hydrogen, proportion of hydrogen is to oxygen, proportion by mass is 1:8. That means in 9 grams of water the ratio is 1:8. That means it is 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 gram of oxygen. That means in 9 gram of water there is 8 gram of oxygen. In 9 gram of water there is 8 gram of oxygen. So how much you got here? You got 1.8 gram. Okay, so in this reaction you got 1.8 grams of water. So if in 9 grams there is 8 grams of oxygen, so in 1.8 grams, how much oxygen will be there? I have written it here. In 9 grams, there is 8 grams of oxygen. In 1.8 gram, how many grams of oxygen will be there? That is taken as X. By cross multiplying, you will get 1.8 into 8 is equal to X into 9. Therefore, X is equal to 8 into 1.8 upon 9. The answer is 1.6 gram of oxygen. Okay, that means in 1.8 gram of water, 1.8 gram of water contain 1.6 gram of oxygen. Okay, 1.8 gram of water, 1.6 gram of oxygen. Okay, so that means 1.6 gram of oxygen is formed from 8 grams of copper oxide. Okay, from 8 grams, from this 1.8 is formed. So from 8 gram of copper oxide you are getting 1.6 gram of oxygen from 8 grams of copper oxide. Okay, that means what is left? Copper is left. Okay, how many grams of copper? It will be 6.4 grams of copper. Here we have written 6.4 grams of copper. Okay, so that means copper oxide contains 6.4 grams of copper and 1.6 grams of oxygen. The ratio is 6.4 is to 1.6. If you reduce it, okay, if you reduce it by 16, it will come to 4 is to 1. Okay, so this is the experimental value. In this, that is the value. By atomic masses, if you calculate with the atomic masses of copper and oxygen, the atomic mass of copper is 63.5. The atomic mass of oxygen is 16. So what will be the ratio of Cu is to O? It is 63.5 is to 16. There is a point here. 63.5 is to 16. Dividing both sides by 16, that means reducing the value, you will get it as 3.968 is to 1. It is approximately 4 is to 1, which is the expected value. So the experimental value and the expected value is coming to the same. That means the law of constant proportion is verified. If you don't understand, no problem. You have to just remember that Cu is to O ratio. Okay, the ratio of Cu is to O is always 4 is to 1. By whatever method you calculate, the ratio will be 4 is to 1. That means in 5 grams of copper oxide, there is 4 gram of copper and 1 gram of oxygen. Got it? So this is about the verification of law of constant proportion. So these are the two laws of chemical combination. What are the two laws? Law of conservation of matter and law of constant proportions. Who put forward law of conservation of matter? It is Antoine Lavoisier. And law of constant proportion was put forward by J.L. Proust. Okay, you may copy this in your notebook. Now the next topic is atom, size, mass and valency. There is a can you recall question. First one, from which experiments was it discovered that atoms have an internal structure? This you had studied last year. From the experiments of Rutherford. Okay, Rutherford's scattering experiment, if you remember. From Rutherford's scattering experiment, it was shown that there is a nucleus at the center. So from those experiments, it was discovered that atoms have an internal structure. What are the two parts of an atom? What are they made up of? Okay, you may see the two parts of an atom is nuclear part and extranuclear part. The nuclear part, that is the nucleus, it consists of protons and neutrons. So protons and neutrons are present inside the nucleus. Protons and neutrons are together called as nucleons. Protons are positively charged, neutrons are neutrally charged. The extranuclear part consists of electrons which revolve around the nucleus in orbits. Okay, in orbits. Do you remember there are 4 orbits? There are 4 orbits. Here I have shown that if this is the nucleus, this is K, L, M and one more, that is N. Okay, there could be only one, there could be only 2 also. Okay, but basically there could be 4 shells which are named as K, L, M and N, and electrons revolve around the nucleus in particular orbits. Okay, so this is about the two parts of an atom, nuclear part and extranuclear part. Electrons are having negative charge. Now atomic radius, what do you mean by atomic radius? So whatever the shell is, if an atom is having, if this is the nucleus, this is the first shell and this is the second shell, okay? If the atom is containing only two shells, then the distance from the center to the outermost shell, the distance from the center to the outermost shell, that is called as the atomic radius, okay? And the next is atomic number. What do you mean by atomic number? It is the number of protons or number of electrons in that atom. If there are 15 protons, the atomic number is 15. If there are 15 electrons, the atomic number is 15. If there are 20 protons, then the atomic number is 20. If the atomic number is 21, then the number of protons is 21. That means the atomic number is the number of protons or the number of electrons inside an atom. It is denoted by the letter Z, okay? And atomic mass number. Atomic mass number is denoted by the letter A. It is the number of protons plus number of neutrons in the nucleus, okay? What is atomic mass number? Atomic mass number is the number of protons plus number of neutrons in the nucleus. So this is the basic thing which you have to learn from this part. Now we will see what has been given in the textbook, okay? So on page number 48, the last paragraph, you may see the size of an atom is determined by the radius. The atomic radius of an isolated atom is the distance between the nucleus of the atom and its outermost orbit. Atomic radius is expressed in nanometers. This is a very important fill in the blank. Atomic radius is expressed in nanometers. 1 upon 10 raised to 9 meter is equal to 1 nanometer, and 1 meter is equal to 10 raised to 9 nanometer. This is a fill in the blank question. Now example, hydrogen atom, the atomic radius is 10 raised to minus 10 in meters. Water molecule, it is 10 raised to minus 9 in meters. Hemoglobin, it is 10 raised to minus 8 meters. So it is very, very small. You may see 10 raised to minus 8 means 0.8 zeros and then any number, okay? 7 zeros and then any number, okay? So it is that small. Now page number 49, atoms are very tiny. Modern instruments like electron microscope, field ion microscope, scanning tunneling microscope enlarges the images of an atom. So for the study of an atom, these microscopes are used. On page number 48, figure 4.2, they have given an image of different atoms. Towards the right, the atomic size depends on the number of electron orbits in an atom. So you may see potassium, okay? You may see potassium. Potassium, its atomic number is 19, okay? Its atomic number is 19. Its electronic configuration is 2881, okay? Whereas sodium, its atomic number is 11. Its electronic configuration is 281, okay? Now when you draw this, if this is the nucleus, 2 in the first shell, then next 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 in the second shell, third shell also 8, third shell also 8, and 1 in the last shell, okay? 1 in the last shell. This is a potassium atom. Now how will you draw sodium atom? The nucleus, this is the nucleus. How many protons? 19 protons. Here it is 11 protons. First shell, it is 2, okay? 2. Second shell, it is 8. Second shell, it is 8. And third shell is 1, okay? Second shell is 8, third shell is 1. Which one is bigger? This one is bigger. Why it is bigger? Because this is having 4 shells and this is having only 3 shells, okay? So as the number of shells increases, the atomic size increases. Now they have given another example of magnesium, okay? Now you may see magnesium, its atomic number is 2. 12. Okay, so electronic configuration is 2, 8, 2. That means 2 in the first shell, 8 in the next shell, and 2 in the last shell. So when you draw the diagram, this is 12 protons, it is the nucleus. In the first shell there are 2, in the second shell there is 8 in the second shell, and 2 in the last shell. Okay, now what is the rule? Here there is only one shell, one electron. Here there are 2 electrons. As the number of electrons in the outermost shell increases, the size decreases. That means magnesium is smaller compared to that of sodium. Why? Because magnesium has a more number of electrons in the outermost shell than sodium. Okay, so what can be concluded from that box? So potassium is bigger than sodium. Why? Because it is having more number of shells. Okay, so if the number of shells increases, the atomic size increases. Magnesium is smaller than sodium. Why? Because sodium has 1 electron in its outermost shell and magnesium has 2 electrons in its outermost shell. As the number of electrons in the outermost shell increases, the force of attraction increases. That means the nucleus attracts them more towards the nucleus. Here the nucleus is attracting the more towards the nucleus. Therefore the size decreases. Okay. Now we may move on to the next on page number 49. The mass of an atom. The mass of an atom is concentrated in its nucleus. Underline, it is a fill in the blank, and it is due to protons and neutrons in it. The total number is the atomic nucleus is called the atomic mass number. Protons and neutrons are together called as nucleons. Okay, so this is about the definitions of atomic mass number, atomic number, and what do you mean by atomic radius. Now, if you take an atom, you cannot hold an atom in your hand and you cannot weigh one atom. Okay, one atom, because it is very, very less. Which is the smallest atom? Hydrogen is the smallest atom. It is having only one proton. It is having only one electron. It does not have any neutron. So scientists in the earlier days, they used to find it difficult how to calculate the mass of an atom. Okay, the mass of an atom. So relative atomic mass was considered, a term which is called as relative atomic mass. Now what do you mean by relative atomic mass? In relative atomic mass, hydrogen is considered as the standard atom. It is having the mass 1. Okay, it is taken the mass 1. And the nitrogen atom, okay, you have to take 2 pans. Okay, you know about the weighing balance. You know about the weighing balance. Here you have to take nitrogen. Okay, in one of the pans you have to take nitrogen, and here you have to place hydrogen. Okay, so you placed one hydrogen, but still the nitrogen was heavy. So you placed 2 hydrogen, still it was heavy. Then you placed 3 hydrogen, still it was heavy. Like that you went on increasing. It is an imaginary thing what I am telling. Okay, you went on increasing, and when it reaches 14, then they both are balanced. When it is reaching 14, then it is balanced. Therefore, what is the atomic mass of nitrogen? The atomic mass of nitrogen is 14. Okay, it was considered like that. So in relative atomic mass, earlier the scientists used to take hydrogen as a standard value. Actually the mass of hydrogen is very, very less, but they took it as 1, and with that 1 they calculated the atomic mass of other elements. Okay, so afterwards what happened, when they started calculating like this, the atomic mass of some elements started to come fractional, where they were getting the value in fractions. So they changed hydrogen and they took carbon atom as the standard value. Okay, they took carbon atom as the standard value for relative atomic mass. Okay, but what we have to remember, earlier hydrogen was taken as the standardized atom, and afterwards carbon was taken as the standard atom for calculating relative atomic mass. It is a relation, isn't it? Compared to nitrogen, how many hydrogen atoms are required? So it is a comparison. Okay, so it is called as relative atomic mass. Okay, but nowadays you may see on page number 50, first paragraph, today we have highly accurate methods for measuring the mass of an atom directly. Hence, instead of relative mass, unified mass has now been accepted as the unit of atomic mass. Okay, you may underline that. So earlier it was calculated as relative atomic mass, and now it is unified atomic mass. It is called Dalton. The unit is Dalton. Its symbol is U. 1 unit is equal to 1.66053904 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. Okay, 10 raised to minus 27 kg. You may imagine what the number will be. It is 0.27 zeros and then that number. Okay, so it will be that small, very small value, but it is a relation which is taken. 1 Dalton is equal to that much of kg. So nowadays what do we use? We use unified mass. Okay, so on page number 49 you may see they have given a table to the relative atomic masses of some elements in the chart below are given. You have to find the relative atomic masses of the others. I will read out the atomic masses. You may fill in the blanks. Hydrogen 1, helium 4, lithium 7, beryllium 9, boron 11, carbon 12, nitrogen 14, oxygen 16, fluorine 19, neon 20, sodium 23, magnesium 24, aluminum 27, silicon 28, phosphorus 31, sulfur 32, chlorine 35.5, argon 39.9 or approximately 40. You may write whatever your school teacher gives. Potassium 39 and calcium 40. Okay, these are the relative atomic masses of some elements. So in this lecture you have to study about law of chemical combination. There are two laws: law of conservation of matter, law of constant proportion. Now, and these definitions: atomic radius, atomic number, atomic mass number, what are nucleons, okay, and the fill in the blank on page number 50. What is 1 Dalton is equal to 1.60660 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. It could be asked as a fill in the blank question. Okay, so now I will give you the homework. This is your homework for today. State law of conservation of matter, law of constant proportions. You may write what I had written on the board also, and you may underline it in your textbook. Define atomic number. What is atomic number? It is the number of protons or the number of electrons. You have to write or, not and. If you write and, it becomes an addition and you will get the definition wrong. So what is the definition? What is atomic number? It is the number of protons or the number of electrons in an atom. What is atomic mass number? Atomic mass number is the total number of protons and neutrons inside the nucleus. Okay, so you may learn this much for today. Thank you.